Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Mary Perriconi, and I'm here with Dr. Suzanne Lie to continue our ongoing conversations, which we began several months ago with under the topic of the Arcturian Pleiadian Alliance. And those conversations expanded into a series on creating your own reality. Today, we're going to expand further and begin a conversation with the Arcturians on return to self. Now, Dr. Sue had a wonderful article on her blog Sunday, July the 27th, called Returning to Your Multidimensional Self. If you haven't had a chance to read that, you might want to do that, because today's conversation is going to be based on that. And we're going to have a Q&A with the Arcturians. Hi, Sue. How are you today?
I'm good today.
Good. So, where would you like to make a comment or anything about that article, which really was really comprehensive? It really spoke at a new level about levels of multidimensionality.
Well, actually, yes, I would like to, because that was one of those experiences where I was getting the message in my sleep. And I was in this twilight place where I wasn't asleep and I wasn't awake. And I was trying to really pay attention so that I could bring it forward and bring at least the first part forward. So once I started writing, I could get the rest or whatever. And so it was one of those things that as it came and I woke up, I had to rush to the computer, turn it on right away, and put my fingers on the keyboard and said, okay, what did you just say? So then, in fact, I just grabbed it and went to the closest room, which happened to be the bathroom, and sat there in the bathroom with the computer on my lap, trying to get everything that I had gotten in that other frequency of my consciousness. So I love when those happen, and I am going to be running some classes in the fall, some ascension classes in the fall.
Wonderful.
And so therefore, I am waiting, for whenever there is more Arcturian guidance. So whenever it comes like that, I know that my ego is well out of the picture. So it hasn't come back again, but usually there's a digestion period in between. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. So when you're ready, it'll come through. It will come through.
Yes.
Thank you for jumping out of bed.
Yes.
And writing all of this down, because this really is a wonderful article on the blog, and you and I had a couple of conversations about it, and so much of it really resonates with me. And I couldn't help thinking the Arcturians were really commenting on those past conversations that we have had, and really pulling those forward, or pulling them deeper, or back into the center of the spiral at a whole new level. One of the things that the Arcturians said in the article that really touched my heart was they were thanking the lightworker community. They said, "We wish to thank you all for your great courage and endurance. We are coming to you today to tell you that it is the now for those of you who have united with your multidimensional self to unite with each other, to unite with one another in one consciousness." Isn't that beautiful? It really is beautiful.
Yes. And they also said to unite with all human and non-human beings who are ready to release all the illusions of separation and limitation from their vessel.
Yes.
And so when
your third-dimensional vessel.
From your third-dimensional vessel, yes. And that is much like if you're in a hot air balloon and you can't want to go higher and you've got a bunch of stuff in the hot air balloon, you just have to surrender it, because the balloon, the basket's too heavy. The balloon is like us, and the basket is our 3D self.
Yes.
And if we want to go higher and higher with the balloon self, our multidimensional self, we got to start clearing out a bunch of old waste material from the basket.
Exactly. I heard an example, or actually, I think an analogy of that many years ago, and that is, as we release, we clear out and we create a void, and that void is filled with light and an expanded perception. So, I personally have found that when I look back, I realized that I really didn't give anything up. I'm still the same person. I still live in the same place. I still have the same friends and the same family, but my perception has changed.
Yes.
Yes. And I wonder if, and that seems to be a key with fear. You know, if I let go of this perception, or if I let go of this belief, will I lose my life? Will I lose my life? And I think the answer is yes. You will lose your life, but it may not be in the way quite you think of it.
Yes, we'll definitely lose those higher perspectives of our life.
Yeah.
And then we will be trapped again. And I don't know about other people that will be listening to this, but I was very trapped. I was one of those people that never was totally asleep. I was always awake, and I always had beings around, and I always had messages coming in. And likely I was crazy. So I had to get a PhD in clinical psychology to prove to myself that no, I'm not crazy. But in one of the classes, a psychiatrist came in and she named all the symptoms of a schizophrenic. I had every symptom. So, okay, all right, I even believed I was God. I mean, really. So, yeah, so therefore, and I have had schizophrenic clients, and I have been able to see that some of those, quote, delusions, it's not so much that their delusions are wrong, it's that how they get to them, how they get to that place within themselves. And these are usually people that have had, trauma, intense trauma in their lives. So, but what is important for me and for others that have come through this long dark night from I came in 46 right after World War II, and there was a lot of darkness in our world, an immense amount of darkness, and I could always tell when it was a made up story and the news were covering this, or they tried to put the happy face on it. I always knew. And so I had to really fight with not being bitter and not being judgmental. It's like, how can people believe this? I mean, they really believe this? And especially back then, there were not many of us. We were few and far in between. And now there are so many more people that have awakened. And some of them are people like us that were awake when we were very young and had to go through that dark, dark night knowing that we had better protect our light. And, but we have that protection innately now. Now we are able to connect. And that true protection, that's interesting, that just came in, that protection really comes through having that connection with your multidimensional self. And when you are connected to this higher component of yourself, it's almost like it can pull you up when you need. And they're not going to pull up your physical self, but it can pull up your consciousness. And when your consciousness goes into a higher frequency, your perceptions go into a higher frequency. And then you find solutions and reasons that are not fear-based, that are part of the bigger picture about how certain things had to occur in certain ways for certain reasons. And that really is of great assistance to keep us out of judgment, keep us out of fear, releasing judgment, releasing fear, and releasing that doubt that maybe I'm crazy, maybe I made it all up. And I know a lot of people suffer with that still because we are the new beings. We're the first ones through.
And doesn't the doubt come from the programming, the patterning, so that as within this change, yes, does the doubt lessen? Does it become diluted? But it is like walking through mud, or sludging through mud, I should say, to get to open, if you will, that portal to transmute the doubt, to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of knowing, many, many levels, as that portal within us opens.
Yes. Wow. Yes.
So how about if we ask the Arcturians about this? Obviously, we started talking about this, and I feel like they will have something to say to expand our understanding of this very topic about perception and reality, etc.
All right. Well, let me call them into a more conscious connection, for I know now that that connection always is, because that is a component of my higher self. And let me just re-say, which I've said many times, but in case someone hasn't heard it before, that when people channel through beings, they're channeling through a higher expression of their multidimensional self. And even if it's like Archangel Michael or Saint Germain or the Arcturians, that just shows how vast our multidimensional self is. And beings of a very high resonance have sent out and down in frequency many, many expressions of themselves, especially within this now of planetary and personal ascension.
Yes.
And so we can remember that we are connected with this being, and as the Arcturians said, there is a vibratory thread that goes from that higher expression of ourself all the way down to our grounded point, our grounding point. Our physical bodies are that which connects us to Gaia so that we can help with the planetary ascension.
Yes. Wonderful.
So I'm going to bring in the Arcturians now. Blessings to all of you. We are so joyous that you are able to join us in this conversation. And Mary, did you wish to ask us some questions about our last message to Suzanne?
Yes, indeed, and thank you. And I've read this message several times, and the key part of it, in my opinion, has to do with perception and reality, and that as we release, our perception expands. But Suzanne just mentioned something a moment ago, that when we channel, when we receive messages, we are receiving them from within ourselves. And if I use the word, I wonder if the word aspect would be the correct word to use. That, or perhaps we are overlit by the multidimensionality of ourself. Can you comment on that?
All of you are indeed overlit, which means that wherever you are, we, your higher expressions or higher aspects, are always with you. For example, if you are taking a walk, you bring your arms. Now, you only need your legs and feet to walk, but you still bring your arms because you're connected to your arms. Now, maybe you don't need to have a connection with us, your higher expression, in certain situations. However, we are attached. So therefore, we are always with you.
That's wonderful. So let me say it this way. How do we function on a multidimensional level? If I am a multidimensional being, are there other aspects of myself in other dimensions, in other realities, right now, functioning, living a life? How does that, can that be explained?
Yes, there are other aspects of your higher dimensional self, as you said it, if, and we are saying, of course, everyone, with everyone. These higher expressions are outside of the third dimensional time space. Therefore, they are not subject to any rules of separation or illusion or time. Therefore, they can be simultaneously attached to 400 different expressions of themselves in 400 totally different frequencies and dimensions of reality without any concern whatsoever. Just as your body can walk and talk and scratch your head and take a drink and look out at the world and hear something else, other noises coming to your head, all these different components of your physical nature that simultaneously go on. You are digesting, you are breathing, your blood is circulating, you're adjusting to the heat. Now, if you had to consciously make all of these decisions of all these things that you have to do to operate your body, it is unthinkable. It would be impossible.
Yes.
Now, it's very much the same way for one who is all of your, actually, not for one, but for all of your higher frequencies of self. They attend to everyone and everything in the same manner that your physical body does. Because if it is a higher expression of what you have in the physical form, would not it be similar to the physical form, only much more advanced and much more complicated? We remember when Suzanne first began to get messages from the higher realms, she was so confused that how come whenever or wherever she would ask that being for information and advice, it was always there. And she was thinking, well, are people standing in line? Do I take a ticket? What does this mean? And that was very confusing for her for quite a while. And then eventually she began to understand that limitation is only in the third dimension. Even in your fourth dimensional dream world, there is not that limitation. You can be in one area as one person, and then instantly you're in a different area as a different person. Now, in reality, all those different areas and people are happening simultaneously. But when it comes through your consciousness and into your third dimensional waking self to remember the dream, it is too difficult to have these overlays. And so therefore you choose whichever one was predominant within your awareness at that time. So just as you take a walk through the woods, there's myriad stimuli that you could attend to. But the third dimensional brain is quite limited. And so you might decide, okay, I'm going to look at the trees right now. I'm going to look at the trail right now. I'm going to see if there's any birds right now. But the third dimensional self has to make a choice, an either or choice. However, once you move into the higher fourth and the fifth dimension and beyond. Those either or choices becomes all that is. And your filter of perception is limitless.
And when you were speaking, the words came to me, you are all that is. And of course, you just finished your last sentence by saying you experience all that is because you are all that is. So I don't know how much of a leap I'm taking with this next question, but what also comes to me is the concept of an understanding of non-duality. And we've heard many times that in the fifth dimension, there is no language. We communicate telepathically. There certainly is no judgment. There is a unity consciousness. Would that be akin to what we have read, have studied, called non-duality?
Non-duality is a third dimensional concept because it has the word non in it. Within our higher frequencies, we do not conceive of non. So we would not conceive of non-duality. However, we would resonate to the oneness of all. So in response to your statement, this oneness of all, oneness with all, oneness for all, this beingness that there is awareness that I am encapsulating a small component of my beingness within the one of the now, to have a focal point through which I can connect with other beings who will only be able to attend to what I am sharing if I take on an appearance that is familiar and comfortable to them. Now, if we were to come to someone, even someone that says, oh, I really want to talk to a higher self, I really want to talk to my higher self, if we were to suddenly come to them in a blaze of light, which is what we are, they would likely fall to the ground and feel like they needed to worship us. Therefore, we do not do that. We do not want anyone worshiping us because that is us. We are them. And we would not want to have that component of themselves, of ourselves, be lost in themselves and think that, oh, I have to worship this being within myself. That would put them back deeply, deeply into third dimensional thinking. For worshiping is a third dimensional concept as well, that there is something bigger than and better than and more sacred than outside of me, high above me. And in every religion, that poor person had to go through horrible initiations and terrible lifetimes and martyr themselves. This is not what we wish to share, for this is not what is necessary. Now that the Kali Yuga is complete, that type of evolutionary cycle is also complete.
Thank you for that wonderful explanation. Thank you for that wonderful explanation. The new paradigm then, and this is yet another question, the new paradigm would include, or the awareness of the self, the return to the self through the expansion of perception that I am all that is. And if I am all that is, then you are also all that is. So there is that connection in the heart of the one, of every entity, every being, every human being, if you will, both plant and animal and human and mineral and elemental,
Yes.
within this planet.
And yes, we would like to remind Suzelle, who had spoken initially about returning to the multidimensional self, that is very much a third dimensional concept. For us to perceive returning, there would have to be a leaving, and we have never perceived any form of leaving. All of our brave ones who have chosen to bilocate our energy fields into an earth vessel so that they can better assist the earth vessel, the planetary vessel, within her, Gaia's ascension process of making that constant connection. For if there is a constant connection that can never, will never, has never been severed from that lowest frequency of third dimensional physicality, and even what you have called second dimensional or first dimensional physicality, for we also see no difference within the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom. All of you are us in higher frequencies who have chosen to express different dimensional expressions of Gaia, so that the entire planet, every rock, every grain of sand, every mountain, every tree, the atmosphere, every being, earth, air, fire, water, all elementals, every component of beautiful Sister Gaia will be filled and in a constant, unwavering, unbroken flow with the higher expressions of her planetary self and all that inhabit her planetary self.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful explanation. It's amazing that the time has gone by so quickly in the no time. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening. And let's ask Sue to come back with us for any closing comments.
Well, I have one closing comment. One thing is, thank you, Arcturians. That was great information, and I appreciated hearing it myself. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we hope to see you all again soon in our consciousness, of course. And blessings be to all of you.